Alex Manson has been in his new role since April. He's the Group Head of Transaction Banking at Standard Chartered, and I'm with him now in the London head office of the bank. So, Alex, since you've taken on this new role, what is it that you've been trying to achieve?
Well, I think that the main point has to be about the evolving needs of our clients. Asian treasury is getting a lot more complex. International companies have had regional treasury centers in Asia for a long time. They were relatively small offices. They had limited mandates, limited amounts of cash to manage. They now occupy floors of an entire building. They have a lot of cash to manage, but also they're dealing with very, very complex requirements, regulations, how to manage that cash, optimize it. And then conversely, the Asian treasury is going global. They're bigger operations. They're dealing with being a global treasury as well. They're dealing with more complex needs. So in an interesting way, their needs are converging, and it's more complex, more difficult to deal with, meaning that they need advice. They need a different kind of advice from what they used to. They need better technology, and they expect more from their banks.
Okay, so that's about your clients, but what about the industry and the state of the industry at the moment? You're working, you're at Cybos, so I'm just wondering, since Cybos and then going into next year, what do you expect to change in the industry?
That's a great question, actually. When I think of Cybos, one overarching theme was the enforcement situation in the US, and I think of this as one of the structural shifts in our industry. The bar on conduct has been raised. It's a very important reality, and I don't think this is going away at all. Another structural shift is prudential regulations. Capital, liquidity are more expensive, and this is here to stay as well. And then the cyclical challenges that may not be here forever, but they're very real now. It's historically low interest rates, depressed margins, declining commodity prices, lots of liquidity, meaning excess liquidity, which is again depressing margins. And I would love this to improve in the foreseeable future, but we can't wait for it, and therefore we have to position our industry to be able to cope in that environment.
Okay, and this isn't your first role at Standard Chartered. You were at Stanchart before this job. So maybe can you tell us a bit about the role you're doing before, and then a sort of second part of that, can you tell us about your career history so far and how you ended up here?
So before transaction banking, I ran geographies for the wholesale bank at Standard Chartered. So you can think of it as a very broad role. I used to look at every business, every client segment, but somewhat superficially, just across the board. And I'm now focusing on transaction banking only, which is in some ways narrower, but very deep, very specialized, and a fascinating business to be responsible for. So very different perspectives on the same institution. I've done different things over time. I've been a banker for a long time, but I've done this in the US, in Europe, in Asia. I've been an investment banker. I've been in capital markets, in markets, derivatives, and obviously corporate banking and transaction banking. The way I think of my own personal evolution is initially I was very focused on deals, chasing deals, and that was thrilling to a young banker. Over time, I've become more of a client guy, focusing on clients' needs, building relationships, building trust. And then over time, it's been increasingly about the markets where we operate, the role that we have in those markets, and participating, supporting the development of the markets, and I find that fascinating. I joined Standard Chartered thinking of it as genuinely client-centric, but also long-term committed to the clients we deal with and the markets where we operate, and that was fascinating to me. A very powerful proposition for our clients, and something I wanted to do.